In this video, I'm going to show you where Microsoft Purview communication compliance falls slightly short. I will then demonstrate how to address this gap with a custom solution that includes a custom keyword dictionary sensitive information type and a data loss prevention or DLP policy. At the end, I will explain why even this custom solution could benefit if Microsoft reinstates certain DLP mechanisms they recently retired. I will start by opening the Microsoft Purview portal and navigating to the communication compliance solution. As you can see, it detected 16 instances of targeted harassment in the messages. Let's follow the recommended action and create a communication compliance policy. Click the Create Policy button. I'll select Customize Policy to access the policy creation wizard. This is a predefined policy for detecting inappropriate text, and it does not allow you to modify the name. So click Next. On the next screen, add a mandatory reviewer. Click Next. The following screen allows you to select the locations where this policy will detect communications. As you can see, it includes Exchange, Teams, and Viva Engage locations. You can also include interactions with Microsoft 365 Copilot. But what are we missing here? We are missing SharePoint and OneDrive workloads. Technically, files in SharePoint and OneDrive are not considered communication. However, I would argue that files can serve as a means of communication. For instance, imagine John wants to offend Mary and says, "Hey Mary, check out the file I created in the SharePoint folder." Mary opens the file and finds offensive content that John intentionally included to target her. This scenario would not be detected by communication compliance. While SharePoint and OneDrive are not traditional communication channels like emails or Teams, files stored there can carry targeted messages. Offensive or inappropriate content within a file can serve the same purpose as a direct message, targeting or harassing someone. Microsoft Purview Communication Compliance focuses on unstructured communications such as chats or email, but does not monitor the content of the files stored in the SharePoint or OneDrive. This creates a blind spot where malicious intent can be hidden within the files. Organizations could face liability if they fail to monitor inappropriate file content, especially in sensitive or regulated industries. Victims of such behavior may lose trust in organizations' ability to protect them if these gaps are exploited. Okay, let's fix it. Here's the warning though. This video contains material that might be offensive, but that's the point. First, I'm going to create a keyword dictionary with the content we want to monitor. In other words, we are creating a dictionary that will contain profanity. Open Microsoft Purview and navigate to the Information Protection solution. Locate Sensitive Info Types in the Classifiers section and select it. Click the Create Sensitive Info Type option. Be sure to give it a descriptive name and enter a mandatory description. I named mine Profanity Dictionary. Click Next. On the next screen, click Create Pattern. In the New Pattern panel, click Add Primary Element and choose Keyword Dictionary. You'll now see options to either select from existing dictionaries or upload a new one. You can upload text files or comma-delimited files. But where do we get these files? We create them. You don't have to manually compile the file yourself, unless of course you're feeling particularly creative and take some kind of peculiar pleasure in curating colorful language. The internet is brimming with colorful language and questionable content. If seriously, you can search online for pre-existing dictionaries and use them as a base. I'm going to pause the wizard here and search for a dictionary of offensive words. As you can see, the results are plentiful. Let's take a closer look at a few of them. Okay, here is a good one. Let's save it. Google has another great option, so I'm going to harvest that as well. If you need offensive words in languages other than English, GitHub has a fantastic project. They even include Cantonese profanity. Look at all these languages. I will download the English dictionary from this source, and since I am in Canada, I will also grab a list of French profanity. French profanity is unique. It's mostly rooted in religious terms used casually or in vain. In Quebec, swearings include words like tabernacle or colis, reflecting Catholic heritage. However, the use of these words can be also perfectly acceptable depending on the context, a point I will leverage when setting up the DLP policy. Now that I have the files, I'm going to back to the wizard. Enter the name for your keyword dictionary, then click Upload a Dictionary. Select Upload Text File option and choose the file you carefully compiled. I'm selecting the file English Profanity Text. Here it is. To upload the file, click Done. Once the file is uploaded, you will see the primary element listed as English Profanity Dictionary. For the character proximity option, select anywhere in the document. Click Create. Notice that you can add additional patterns to this custom CIT. I'll now add a pattern for French profanity. Select the Create Pattern option and repeat the same steps, this time with the French file. Choose Keyword Dictionary as the primary element. I'll name it French Profanity Dictionary and upload the French Profanity text file here. Once the file is uploaded and the keyword dictionary is populated, click Done. Select the Character Proximity option and set it to anywhere in the document and click Create. We now have two patterns for our custom CIT. Expanding the pattern will display its name and the character proximity settings. Click Next. The confidence level is set to high for the dictionary. Click Next. Review your settings, then click Create to finish. Our CIT is successfully created. Click Done. Now let's locate it in the list of CITs. In the Publisher filter, select your tenant. The Profanity Dictionary CIT is listed here. Note the type. It is Entity. Let's select it to view its properties. As you can see, there are no matches for this CIT. Everyone has behaved nicely in my tenant so far, but that's about to change. Next, I'm going to create the DLP policy. Navigate to the Data Loss Prevention solution, go to the Policies, and click Create Policy. Since we are creating a custom policy, I will skip the template screen once it loads and click Next. Name your policy. I'm naming mine Profanity Detection in SharePoint and OneDrive files to keep it descriptive. Click Next. Click Next again to skip the Admin Units screen. Now we will choose where to apply this policy. Since Microsoft Communication Compliance already covers all communications and we are focusing solely on the files in SharePoint and OneDrive, I'm going to clear all locations except SharePoint sites and OneDrive accounts. By default, the DLP policy will apply to all SharePoint sites and all OneDrive users and groups. These are the settings we'll use for our DLP policy. However, there might be cases where you would want to exclude certain sites from the policy. Why would someone want to exclude a site from a profanity policy? Here is an example. One of my clients had a SharePoint site dedicated to a chapel here in Canada. Remember how French-Canadian profanity originates from religious words. In this case, a SharePoint site used for religious services would legitimately use those words in context, so we wouldn't want to block them. Now, note that this approach would not work for our current setup since we bundled both French and English profanity into one CIT. If you anticipate a need to allow French religious words in special cases, you would need to create two separate keyword dictionary CITs, one for English and one for French, and set up two different DLP policies. When configuring the DLP policy for French profanity, you could exclude specific SharePoint sites or OneDrive accounts dedicated to religious services. This ensures the policy works appropriately without generating false positives. Click Next. Now we are going to create a custom rule for this policy. Name the rule Profanity Detection. Under Conditions, click Add Condition. Select the Content Contains option and keep the group operator set to any of these. Then click Add and choose Sensitive Info Types. Type Profanity and locate the Profanity Dictionary CIT we just created. Click it and select Add. In the Action section, click Add an Action and select Restrict Access or Encrypt the content in Microsoft 365 locations. This is the only action available to us, and I will discuss its shortcoming for this particular implementation at the end of this video. For the restriction, select Block Everyone. Not the ideal solution, but the only option we have. Finally, turn user notifications on. In the production solution, you might want to turn on Use Email Incident Reports to notify when a policy match occurs. For this demo, I'm going to skip it and click Save. Here's our advanced rule. Click Next. We will start by running this policy in simulation mode, so keep the default setting and click Next. Review the policy settings and click Submit to provision it. You will see a recommendation to consider adding Teams as location to protect against accidental sharing of the sensitive information in Teams messages. However, we don't need to add this location because Microsoft already does an excellent job monitoring Teams with its out-of-the-box communication compliance solution, provided that you've set it up and enabled its policies. Remember, we are only here to fill the gaps. The policy is created and we click Done. Now let's select this policy and view the policy simulation. It takes time to run a simulation, but the magic of video editing allows me to save you some time. Here are the results. As you can see, nearly 200,000 files were scanned across SharePoint and OneDrive locations, and no matches were found. While no one was watching, I added 3 files to the profanity test library here. If you open this file, you can see the word shit. The second document contains the word ass. I also have 2 files with the same content downloaded to my OneDrive. Now I'm going to go to the profanity detection policy and restart the simulation. Once again, I saved you some time, and here are the results. The simulation found 5 matches. You can see 3 file matches in SharePoint. It displays the URL of the site with most matches. In my case, it's the only site. Next, I will view the results for OneDrive and scroll down to see the top users with most matches. In this case, I'm the only user who downloaded the offending content to my OneDrive, and you can see my location here. Finally, you can click on the Items for Review tab to view the list of the files. It shows the file names and their locations. If you click on a file, it displays the GUID of the sensitive info types that match this DLP policy. You can also view the rules. In our case, we have only one rule: profanity detection. Next, I'm going to click on the Alerts tab. As you can see, there are no alerts yet. You can also download the report containing the results of this simulation. Now let's turn the policy on. Click Confirm when prompted, and you'll see the message confirming that the policy has been published successfully. Let's return to the policies page and take a look at it. The policy status now shows as on. Let's check the results. Now we have a user, Knox, who accessed the documents and attempted to work with it, only to find out that the file contains a bad word. You will notice that the file has a red icon indicating that the access to the information is blocked. You can also modify the policy tip to provide users with a more detailed explanation of what's happening. Now let's open the file. Hopefully the content doesn't come as too much of a shock. The info panel for this file indicates that some commands are not available. If you go to the DLP alerts, you will see that there are alerts generated by this policy now. When I open the alert, it shows that the DLP policy matched the profanity detection rule along with the location and the user who performed the event. Note that Microsoft DLP policies do not currently block saving of the file. When I implemented this solution 3 years ago, DLP policies had an option to prevent file from being saved, which I found a perfect solution for this particular scenario. So if the user wanted to add a bad word to a file, the user wouldn't be able to simply save these changes. So the profanity would never even make it to the file. Problem solved. We do not want to reprimand the users. We do not want to have an administrative overhead. The profanity content does not have place in our documentation. So why do we even need to alert somebody? We just quietly delete it. In the recent implementation of the DLP policy, it is impossible to do. Even workaround is not possible, for instance, leveraging the workflows. Even when a DLP policy detects a violation, the file is saved first. DLP policies are redesigned to focus on data governance, not on real-time blocking. Without real-time prevention, there is no perfect solution to block profanity before it is saved. While I preferred the solutions based on the old DLP policies in the past, this solution is still a good one to consider. It is better than nothing, and it does fill the gap for SharePoint and OneDrive locations when it comes to the offensive language. Keep your mouth and your tenant clean and like this video. Thanks for watching.